Like all mythological subjects, the gun country has many origin stories. Some of them start in 17th century British law or 18th century colonial North America. Others begin with the 19th century founding and expansion of industrial production. They trace a path through such places as the Gun Valley of Massachusetts and Connecticut, where much of the traditional gun industry originated, and track the rise and fall of fortunes belonging to the likes of Samuel Colt or Oliver Winchester. Others still look to the gun violence of the 20th century in places like Chicago, Detroit, or New York, cities decimated by the urban crisis of mid-century America. Rarely does an origin story for the gun country begin 4,000 miles away in Helsinki, Finland. But that's where this one for post-war American gun capitalism takes us, to where the Finnish government, like its counterparts throughout Europe in the years after the Second World War, grappled for a solution to a gun problem of its own. For many European countries, the war had coughed up tools of violence by the millions, leaving them to rust and rot and warp in warehouses and depots across the continent as devastated societies tried to rebuild. For a host of reasons, European nations had little use for those tools of war any longer. Their populations were exhausted and depleted, and material reminders of the years of trauma were hardly in demand. The continent remained shattered, and the miracle economic recovery of the 1950s, which would create or rebuild middle-class consumer societies, lay in the future. And even if Europeans had the inclination or money to buy these millions of guns, most countries had laws or were passing new ones that limited or prohibited civilian firearms ownership. As Cold War Europe faced the possibility of future wars, the time for yesterday's weapons had passed. So what could you do with them? Storage was only a temporary solution. Without regular maintenance, the guns would deteriorate in government warehouses, which needed round-the-clock security. You could dispose of them, of course, but that was expensive. The cost of shipping and dumping hundreds of thousands of guns in the middle of the Baltic Sea was enough to bust the budget of a recovering country like Finland. The price of guns in both lives and national treasure was already beyond counting. Tens of thousands of Finns died bearing them, fighting off first Soviet invaders and later the Finns' erstwhile allies, the Nazis. And now these guns were quite literally Finland's and Europe's trash.